Welcome, everyone, to the Q&A session for our upcoming course, Shamanic Journeying with the Spirits of Nature, the 7-week journey to build strong, reciprocal, and healing relationships with animals, trees, and other allies in the middle world. I'm Lisa Bonis, and it's my honor to be hosting this Q&A conversation for the Shift Network, where we'll explore the teachings of Sandra Ingerman and address questions about her upcoming 7-week course, Shamanic Journeying with the Spirits of Nature, which begins Tuesday, March 5th. Later, I'll explain how you can participate in this course. Even if you can't attend the live sessions, that's not a problem. But first, I want to introduce our guest. Sandra Ingerman is an award-winning author of 11 books, including the classic Soul Retrieval, Mending the Fragmented Self, and her most recent release, The Book of Ceremony, Shamanic Wisdom for Invoking the Sacred in Everyday Life. She's the presenter of several audio programs produced by Sounds True and the creator of the Transmutation app. Sandra, a world-renowned teacher of shamanism, has been teaching for more than 30 years. She's taught workshops internationally on shamanic journeying, healing, and reversing environmental pollution using spiritual methods. She was awarded the 2007 Peace Award from the Global Foundation for Integrative Medicine and was chosen as one of the top 10 spiritual leaders of 2013 by Spirituality and Health magazine. And in just a few minutes, we're going to open up for your questions about her upcoming course. But first, I want to welcome Sandra, who's going to Okay, I'm not going to welcome Sandra yet. We're having technical difficulties getting her on the line. So when Sandra gets here, she's going to open us up with an opening practice. And in the meantime, I guess I'll just tell you a little bit about our course. Once again, it's called Shamanic Journeying with the Spirits of Nature, and it begins Tuesday, March 5th. And if you want to check out the website, maybe follow along with us when Sandra joins us, you can learn more about the 7-week course at spiritsofnaturecourse.com to see the full description. And again, since she's not here, I'll go ahead and I'll just tell you a little bit about the course. Again, it's called Shamanic Journeying with the Spirits of Nature, and this is going to be a really fascinating 7-week journey under Sandra's expert guidance, where you'll discover how to see nature through the eyes of a shaman and move into your spirit self to talk with different species and learn from them, enable them to learn from us. So I'll tell you a little bit more about the course in a little while. I hear that Sandra's on the line with us, so let's go ahead and bring her on. Sandra, welcome. It's so great to see you. I'm glad you made it. I will shut up now and I'll let you talk.
I guess I'm not used to we always have technological problems, especially when I'm in the room. I have one of those electrical systems that cause tremendous amount of problems with devices. But I wonder if this is a synchronicity, because what I wanted to start talking about to introduce us to the course and even get us excited about the course is, we're living in a 2-dimensional reality because of all of our devices. And we're so caught off from anything outside of what technology can bring to us. Our houses cut us off. Having stores to go into is wonderful, but it cuts us off from the natural world. I don't have to explain this to you. The list goes on and on. And so for me, what I'm feeling, and with the stress that people are experiencing right now, and the sense of overwhelm that people are experiencing right now, is that part of what's happening is we have cut ourselves off through technology to experiencing so many different dimensions of life. And so we're all tuned into this fear mode. We're watching politics. We're watching all the bad news, what's happening. And what has been known for thousands and thousands of years is the magic and beauty of what happens when we step into another dimension outside of technology And I'm not trying to over romanticize shamanic cultures, but I can say that people are happier in indigenous cultures than we are in the West, because we're living in a box. We've lost the wealth, the magic, the beauty of what life is all about. And another synchronicity that happened today was somebody's posted on Facebook an article that comes from the Smithsonian. And I didn't have time to read it, but something said to me, something knocked on my door and said, you need to read this. And there's a couple of lines. It's an incredible article. I printed the whole article out. But there's a couple of lines, and I'm sorry it looks weird that I'm reading, but it's the best that I can do right now. And this article was written, the actual title of the articles are Why Scientists Are Starting to Care About Cultures That Talk to Whales. And so there's all these old ancient stories that are collected about archaeologists and people who went out into the Arctic who had full relationships with whales. The whales talked to them about their babies. They talked to them about what they needed to have more harmonious connections with people. I mean, these people that came out of the Arctic were just flawed and in awe by the wealth of communication with another species. And so a line that one archaeologist wrote in this article is, if you start looking at the relationship between humans and animals from the perspective that indigenous people themselves may have held, it reveals a rich new universe, says Matthew Betts, an archaeologist. What a beautiful way to view the world. And think about that. We've gotten so cut off. People, when they hear about this course that teaching, they say, well, what does it mean to talk to a tree? And how do I even know a tree wants to talk to me? And, I have so many stories because I walk the land every single day. And what we're talking about in this course is building strong relationships with nature. And this happens over time, not in a journey. So in the course, we might use a journey just as a doorway in to help you to start building on a regular relationship with other nature beings. So I walk my land every day for years. I've been living on the same land for 25 years now. And there's a tree, there's a cottonwood tree. It's not on my property. I have to walk pretty far down to see it. And what I noticed after years of walking was every day when I would start to walk close to the tree, its leaves started shimmering no matter what the weather was. It could be so still. The tree would just shake when I would come by. And then what started happening as I started traveling to workshops and going away for long periods of a time, when I would come back and do my walks, it would take days and sometimes a week for the tree to respond to my presence. It was treating me like a being that had been abandoned, when you leave a cat at home. And it takes the cat a while to embrace you back to being at home again. And so there's such a magic when we build up these relationships. Imagine walking in a park, even if you live in a city, and a tree starts to move. There's no wind, only when you walk by. And then you start to sit with it and you start to talk to it and you ask it about its day. And instead of staying in that two-dimensional, rational place, you open your heart and you start to feel sensations that are different than sensations that you felt before. You know the tree is reaching out and hugging you in a particular way and is trying to start a line of communication. And every day that you go back to see the tree and it welcomes you as its leaves are shaking and greeting, you start to notice that you're understanding the connection. You're feeling it really deep, and you're starting to get messages, and you're feeling different textures in your body. And all of a sudden, life takes on a different perspective because you've been opened up to something real, something real. And we're so focused on information that is coming to us that we don't know where it's coming from. People are just talking. Devices are always speaking to us. Music is always coming at us. Sights and colors through the media and through advertising. We are so caught up from that inner sense inside of us that knows how to connect with something much greater. And so the question that I have to ask, because I've been having this relationship with nature my whole entire life, and I'm 66 years old, and no matter what's going on in my life, when a dragonfly lands on my shoulder while I'm walking and thinking about something, or when a hawk lands at my house, a hawk is always a good omen for me and my husband. We've built up these relationships over years so we can see how we're in flow with the universe and the beauty of the universe. And it takes us out of that daily stress of everything that's going wrong on the planet, because all of a sudden your heart opens up to these beings. I have this unbelievable relationship with the red ants on my property. My God, they're so filled with wisdom and what they share with me about living on the land with in harmony. And when you open up to another species and you really get that we're sharing this planet together, and they're sentient beings. Everything that's alive is a sentient being and has feelings, and that we can actually speak to it. And so in the course, what I really want to bring you to is to a wealth of animals who we love. We talk about them all the time, and to trees and plants that we're just in awe of their beauty. And what would happen if you actually built up a friendship, a kinship, so that you're actually having back and forth relationships of what the tree gives gifts to humans and what we give back to the trees, or speaking to the whales about how can we start moving back into a place of harmony inside of ourselves to raise our consciousness to be able to support their life, and sharing about us, telling them about us so that they learn about us too, because then they, just like in the Arctic, the whales started to share where the people could find food and ways to live more in harmony. There was an ongoing conversation. And I don't know if I can emphasize that enough, because in shamanism, we're so used to journeying, to helping divine beings who are willing to answer our questions and perform healings on us. And so this is a completely different point of view. We're not asking really for advice. We want to learn what the whales know and what the bees know and what the coral knows and what the algae knows. Of course, we want to learn that through relationship, but do you understand the different quality? We're not journeying to helping spirits. We're actually creating friendships with the beings that we share this planet with. And that's a very different quality of what we're bringing to this course, because It's not about advice. It's about creating kinships and us learning about what would be helpful to different species, and them learning about us so they have a better sense of what we're going through. And of course, there are thousands of students who have been journeying to different species around the world for God knows how many years. I have so many students who share such miraculous stories. And one of the things that that comes from these journeys is that the beings that we share this earth with have a tremendous amount of compassion for where we are in our evolution. And so there's not a lot of blame and hate. Look at what you're doing to us. We're here. We have compassion. We have patience as you're learning. So that's the field that we're stepping into, a field of curiosity, a field of wonder, a field of kindness, where you're actually creating friendships with other species, and learning how we can all be kinder to each other. I think that's really extraordinary. And what it does is it raises our consciousness, not to just that there's so much more to life that we're not experiencing. Life is becoming deadened and it's becoming meaningless for so many people. And there's a joy, there's a light that shines through us, just like it does in indigenous cultures, where there's a magical relationship going on with so much more than humans, which humans, of course, can drive us crazy. It might be much more interesting to talk to different species and have conversations with them and see what we can bring to each other when we become allies for each other. And other things that I really want to address in this course is the ethics of how we work. Like, we love animals and we get so upset about watching how certain animals are killed for their body parts. But then we have thousands and tens of thousands of people who are getting involved in shamanism, and they're buying drums where the animals were killed in a dishonoring way. We don't even think about our own tools, or those of us who use crystals and gems. How were they mined? Who mined them? How were they cared for? How do we start bringing back honor into working with our tools, working with gems, working with crystals, working with plants? And so there's big work for us to do, and joyful work. Imagine, for me, when I have a conversation with a raven or a worm, an earthworm, something opens up in me that was closed off. And I can only say that it brings such light and joy and back that childhood wonder about life. And so I don't get so involved in what's happening in daily life and what's happening in the world. And it's not a way to escape. It's a way to engage in life, so that we can raise our consciousness, so we can make positive changes on the planet, because we're in communication with the elements and all the living beings that we share this earth with. And once we're in communication, we not only open up to other aspects of ourselves, but now we learn how we can truly plant seeds of positive change for the environment that we so love. And we want to take actions. And many people are out there being activists and doing incredible work. And we can do incredible work spiritually. But it all starts by having the patience to build a relationship. Think about the relationships you build with friends and loved ones, the depth that comes over time, not the superficial words that are spoken in your very first meeting, but in months and years over time. So we're opening ourselves up. We're planting the seeds to open up to a completely different reality and a completely different way of interacting with our life and the life around us. And so I'm incredibly excited for what we all gain. Yes, the course is very short, 7 weeks. So we're planting seeds of how to continue to make friendships with the living beings who are right in your area, and some of the living beings who can really help us with some of the environmental issues that we're dealing with right now. So I'd like to lead us on a short practice. I don't know how short it's going to be, but just to kind of get us into a little bit of the feel of the work and what we can do. And so I'm going to be using my drum. And I'm just going to start out by doing some drumming and some whistling. And I'd like to ask you all to move into a heart space, because we're getting ready to journey into sacred space together. So in this work, the skill that you need is imagination. We were all born with a big imagination, but we've allowed that to be deadened by society and being flooded with so much input. We don't open our imaginary senses anymore. So set your intention to open up to seeing in a different way, and hearing and feeling and tasting and smelling from a deeper place of your inner landscape that absorbs through all your senses and then interprets that into wisdom and knowledge that your body and your psyche and your mind can utilize. So with your imagination, stand up from the place that you're in right now and walk towards a door that takes you out of the ordinary realms into the magic of the unseen realms. Imagine yourself walking through a curtain that takes you into a non-ordinary, beautiful place in nature. You're right here in the middle world, the earth realm where we live. You're just opening up to a different dimension of reality. And as you walk, you notice you're on a path with greenery and animal sounds and bird sounds. You might see the beauty of fireflies or dragonflies or butterflies escorting you as you walk this path. And as you walk this path, you start to notice that you're coming into a meadow. A beautiful meadow filled with wild flowers. And in this meadow, we're all joining together from different places on the planet, coming together to this beautiful meadow. The wind is kissing our cheeks. It's playing with our hair. It's welcoming you. And the sun is shining so brightly above us. Let's absorb some of the energy of the sun, which gives us life. And as we all stand together, gazing at the beauty of this place, set your intention to call in a divine being who could be with you on the rest of this journey. It might be a god or a goddess, or it might be an ancestor or a mythical figure that you admire. Just call in a being who's willing to walk with you on this journey. You might not see it, but you might feel it or hear it, or just get a sense that it's with you. And now let's all together start walking in the direction of the sun beaming high in the sky. As we walk through the blowing grass, the beautiful green grass, and all the flowers moving with the breezes of the wind, we come up to a mighty river, and our divine beings escort us to the banks of the river. And we kneel down. This is the river of life. And as we kneel down and gaze at the beauty of the river flowing so gracefully through life, we ask permission. May we step into your field of energy. And when you hear yes, jump into the river of life and let the waters cleanse you of your day. With the intention of the waters transmuting any negativity, any trauma, any hurt or pain into beautiful light, so that the river is only filled with light, while it takes and transforms what you need to let go of to continue this journey, so that we're all clean and clear. And as we're in the river, we ask the divine being who volunteered to help to take us so that we fly in the arms of this divine being up into the universe, so filled with light, so filled with love. And you can feel and hear the vibration and the hum of life. And as you swim around in the universe with your divine being, feel the pure, unconditional love that the universe created all life from. Let the vibration of the song of life fill all the cells of your body. And now, with the help of your divine being, look down on our beautiful planet Earth. And hopefully by this time, you will see the planet with new eyes, with a new perspective. Feel your love and look closely down at the land and the community you live in. Set an intention that when you go back from this journey and you walk among your community, you will share some of this love and vibration of the song of life. You don't have to tell anybody what you're doing. It's all through your presence. And as you continue looking down where you live, whether it's in the city or the country, look to see if there's a rock or a plant or a tree or an animal that's attracting you. And make a decision that when you come back tomorrow or in the days to follow, you will go and greet this nature being and share love with it. And open your heart and see what happens. So we set our intention to bring back some love and some beautiful song from the universe back to our homes, back to our communities, and back to a nature being who's calling to you right now. And with the help of the divine being that you're with, start to journey back. We pass the river, we fly right over the river of life, and we land back in the meadow. And we once again greet the sun and the wind and the earth and the water of the river of life. And we turn around and we thank this divine being for helping us, knowing that we might see this being again if we call to it. And we retrace our steps back the path that we came, walking quickly. We return to the opening back into our ordinary world, remembering that even without a journey, we just have to open our front door and notice the beauty of life. It takes some time and it takes some patience, but it's all about building strong relationships. So take a seat and open your eyes, place your hands on your heart, and you are back. Welcome back, everybody. So we use guided journeys, and we'll be using them in the course to create that opening of a relationship to being in nature. But then it's going to be important for you to follow through in the ways that you can to build those strong relationships with the nature beings right where you live. And again, your life will be infused with a magic, light, and joy that you might not have open to. I know many of you have, because a lot of you have been doing the same work of all of us spending so much time in nature. But for those of you newer to the work, it's opening up to different dimensions of life that bring meaning into our life, that bring joy into our life, and that brings a new type of consciousness into our life, where we learn how to tap more into our own senses, our own clear senses, our psychic senses, and how we can create a life of harmony for ourselves and more harmony on the planet. So thank you for listening to me and participating in this exercise. And now, Lisa, I'm wondering if we have any questions.
We do. Let me go ahead and let everybody know how to do this because we do have the rest of our time together to dive into your questions about Sandra's upcoming course. Again, let me remind you, it's called Shamanic Journeying with the Spirits of Nature, and it begins Tuesday, March 5th. And if you want to check out the website, as I mentioned earlier, it's called spiritsofnaturecourse.com to see the full description. So if you've got a question for Sandra about the course, go ahead and type it in, and I'll read them aloud. In the meantime, as I mentioned, we do have a couple questions already waiting. We've got a question here from Cecilia, who says, I've always had a deep connection with nature, but sometimes I wonder if I'm anthropomorphizing. Will your course help us to learn the difference between the two? And maybe, Sandra, you can even tell people what that word means. Maybe some folks don't even know.
I know. I started using that term in my courses back in starting 2000, and people's eyes would go, What's anthropomorphizing? So beings in nature, they do have feelings. And they do experience suffering and a lot of the things that we experience. But oftentimes as humans, when we journey or talk to a tree or we talk to water, we start getting into water likes and water doesn't like. That's the example I use of what anthropomorphizing is when instead of really interacting with water and learning its vibration and absorbing its vibration and spending the time to start to notice what insights and what's beyond your rational mind, that water is starting to give you wisdom and illuminate you, you're projecting all your human emotions onto water and you're missing the whole point. So that's what anthropomorphizing is when we project our emotions onto other nature beings. And so, yes, it's just like learning a shamanic journey. When the very first question every single person who signs up for a shamanic journeying course asks is the information that I get in my imagination. It's the very first question because we don't have the experience with the spiritual work yet to know, like the indigenous people, that the information you get in the unseen realms is actually more real than anything that you're experiencing here. And so it's the same thing as we start to open up our senses to learn the language of nature and to speak to the nature beings. We have to work through that layer of personality that immediately wants to make associations that as a human being, I'm hurting you by doing this, instead of actually listening for the answer that comes. And so, yes, I'll be guiding you in how to move away from anthropomorphizing in the course. It's an important part of the work.
It is. And thank you for answering that. I got a lot out of that myself because I find myself doing the same thing. So thank you. We've got a question here from Hillary, who's just asking, how do I know if the upcoming course is for me?
Well, if you listen to the opening introduction that I gave, talking about the course of actually wanting to create friendships with the nature beings that you live with and be able to have conversations through your walks on your way to work and on your days off, when you want to greet different friends and have more relationships with beings than just humans, and you want to open up to a new perception of life. That's really what you want to think about. This course is about building strong relationships with all the beings of nature. And is this something that interests you? Do you want to learn how to speak? And do you want to be with a group who travels to the corals, reefs that are being destroyed right now by the humans and do some healing work on their behalf? Do you want to learn how to journey as a group, be with a group of hundreds and hundreds from around the world, where we act as ambassadors and we all go to the whales together and we talk back and forth about living together in harmony? If this excites you, then I think that you should sign up for the course.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. We've got a question here from Amy. This actually came in before you did the journey just now, so you may have already answered this, but she's asking, is there anything that you would suggest that people do to prepare for the course? Can they do a journey to prepare in any way, or perhaps did the journey that you just led be enough?
Well, there isn't a lot to prepare for, because I am going to guide the journeys and give enough information, for everybody to be able to really jump in, no matter what level. This course is for people who are first starting out, and it's for people who have been journeying for years and years and who are experienced practitioners who want to join a group who is journeying out together into the world of nature and learning together. So there's not really anything to prepare for. The preparation is so key for all the work that we're going to do, because it's important to let go of your personality, your ego, and wanting to anthropomorphize, wanting to project onto nature. And that means that you have to build a clear field of energy around you so that you're not dragging everything from your day into our sessions. Because if you're dragging everything from your day into your sessions, then your mind is engaging in the course instead of your spirit. And this is a spirit-led course. And so it's spirit interactions with the spirits of nature. And so any kind of work that you can do, meditating, taking a walk before the different sessions, doing some singing and dancing, drinking some tea, brushing your hair, anything that you do that I'm letting go of my burdens of the day so that I can have this beautiful experience of being spirit-led and just being in sacred space with other spiritual beings. That's the preparation that is really key and that really needs to happen.
Okay, thank you. That was very helpful. We're getting this question from a lot of people who really want to take the course, but for example, this one is worded, how can we invite nature into our lives when we live in a busy area where it's hard to access nature? Maybe you've got some suggestions for city folks who really want to do this work, but just don't have access.
Well, I've been a nature lover my whole entire life, and I grew up my first 18 years in Brooklyn, New York. And then I lived in San Francisco for 13 years. So I know all about working with nature in the cities. And the cities are filled with nature. Think about the trees that line the streets, and imagine how you might change the life of that tree and your life by every day stopping and having a conversation with this one tree. Or where you can go to a park. Every city has a park where you can sit with a rock and talk to it every day. There's nature in cities. There's the sky. We're going to be talking to the sun and the sky and the moon and the elements. And so there's nature everywhere. Again, we limit ourselves. We close ourselves off. I wonder what trees have been reaching their branches out to you as you've been walking by, if you've been doing spiritual work, and the trees connecting to the light coming out of you, and you've been missing it because you choose to deaden yourself. I know that walk. I worked on Wall Street. I know about just looking down and never looking up. And so it is a new skill set for city livers to start to look up and to see the animals and the birds that are going to fly by you, and the omens of maybe a rainbow coming through sky, and having a talk with a rainbow and learning about a rainbow. Nature is everywhere. And so I'll be helping the city dwellers. I have a lot of experience with this. I started talking to the nature beings as soon as I was a little kid growing up in Brooklyn.
That's a great answer. Thank you for that. Perfect. Let's go to a question here from Emily, who wants to know, and again, other people, they want to know, will you be talking about the fairy realm in this course?
I have to talk about the fairy realm because there is not any culture in the world that does not talk about, I call them the hidden folk, because they're more than fairies. You know, they're the leprechauns and all the little beings and the giant forest guardians. And so they are nature beings that I've taught people how to journey to in some of my other courses. But we'll be doing some new work with them because they are caretakers of the earth. And so we want to start a different kind of conversation with them than I've been having people converse with them before. We're going to be having some real deep conversations with them about how we can bring some more harmony back, because they are caretakers of the earth, and they are beings that don't always trust humans, where I can't say that. A lot of the other nature beings have a lot more compassion for humans than the hidden folk do. And so we'll be approaching them with honor and respect.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. We're getting some questions about the course itself, so this might be a good time for me to go ahead and talk about the details of the course, give Sandra a chance to rest her voice. Again, the course is called Shamanic Journeying with the Spirits of Nature, and it's a 7-week course which takes place on Tuesdays at 5 o'clock Pacific time, starting Tuesday, March 5th. And one person has asked, what if I can't be there live? If you can't join us live, that's fine. You won't miss the teachings. You will receive both audio and video recordings, transcripts, and all course handouts on your course homepage. And also, I'd like to remind everyone that we offer a no-risk money-back guarantee on all of our courses, giving you a full 2 weeks until March 19th in this case, to make sure that you absolutely love it. And as an added option, all participants are welcome to connect in a private Facebook community group so you can stay connected with one another. So there's communication between you and your classmates. You'll be able to communicate with Sandra during the course itself. Also, everyone who registers receives the Shamanic Journeying with the Spirits of Nature bonus collection. First, you'll receive an audio teaching from Sandra entitled Introduction to Shamanic Journeying. Next, you'll get an audio dialogue with Sandra and Robert Moss called Dreamers, Shamans, and Soul Recovery. Then you'll receive an audio dialogue with Sandra Ingerman and Cecile Carson entitled Shamanism in Ordinary Landscapes. And you'll also get a video dialogue with Sandra and Renee Baribeau from the New Year's show on the I Am Winter Solstice Summit. And when you register by midnight Pacific on Thursday, February 28th, you'll receive an extra bonus gift, and that is an audio dialogue with Sandra and Jane Burns, who's awesome, entitled Celtic Shamanism, An Awakening Landscape. So before we get back into questions, Sandra, let me ask you, what are you most looking forward to sharing in your upcoming course? This is a whole new topic for you, isn't it?
Well, it's not a new topic for me. It's that well, let me just say that the bonus with Cecile Carson is probably one of the most powerful. I did an interview with Cecile Carson, and it's probably the most powerful lecture that I have heard about shamanism, and how people in ordinary lives, scientists and Santa Clauses in the mall, are bringing shamanism into the ordinary world. I mean, you can't not cry when you listen to this lecture. And it's just extraordinary. I think I want to share it with everybody, but we're using it as a bonus for this course. And so that's what's so important to me, is what Cecile and I talked about, is bringing shamanism into ordinary landscapes. And so, as I shared in the beginning of our session, it's all about building relationships. When we build relationships with nature, and this is something I've been doing and thousands of us have been doing for years, we just open to a different beauty. And when I read all the Facebook posts, I've been on all my Facebook groups through the Shift Network since I started teaching for the Shift Network for 4 years, and I'm on many other shamanic sites. I'm seeing that people are they're moving too much into themselves because of everything that's going on, and there's an overwhelm going on. And there's such an expansion that happens, and a new perspective that happens, and again, a joy that enters our lives when we move out of our human ordinary reality, and we let our spirit talk to the spirit of the different species that we share this earth with. It's as touching as the stories that Cecile is sharing of how some shamanic practitioners have been communicating. One in particular with some beings in nature that are being tortured, and how the scientist was able to work out a good solution for everybody. And that's what we're looking at in this course, is what happens when we communicate with these beings. Do we start getting some simple ways to adapt our lives that bring more kindness to the natural world that is going to be reflected back to us? Because in shamanism, and I'm always sharing this, the most important principle is the principle of reciprocity. What you give out comes back. And as humans, when we open up more to the natural world and to their hearts and their feelings, and we open up these lines of mutual communication, our consciousness changes, and we open up. Right now, people are closing down, and this is a beautiful way to open back up again, because nature wants us to open back up. It is nature to go through these amazing phases of life. And when we ride the phases of life consciously with different nature beings, we gain so much wisdom about how to live our lives. Even if we didn't care about the planet, which I know everybody does, we would learn so much about how to move our lives back into harmony.
Okay, thank you for that. That was beautiful. Let's do one quick question here from Juanita. She says, I've been visiting a very old cedar tree in a wooded area near my home for several years. And this week, the tree was in an area dozed for new housing. I feel such a loss. How do we handle something like that?
That's actually the first module of this course, is honorable closure. So the very first module of this course is I'm going to be teaching ceremonies that we can do to help or to honor those old trees and those nature beings that are dying through human activity. I'm actually going to be teaching ceremonies of how you can work. And this is how I work at home. I work with every tree that dies, and I keep going back and doing ceremonies. I actually am a very eccentric person, and everybody will learn that if they take this course. And I actually have a plant graveyard where I bring my plants that died, and every equinox and solstice I go back and do a ceremony thanking them for the beauty that they brought into my life. And I hope that they're having a beautiful journey back home. And so I get letters from foresters who had to clear cut trees, and now that they're in a different consciousness, they're asking me for ceremonies of how to come to peace and honor what they did. And so I decided that this was the perfect topic for the first module. Before we even go into communication with different species, how do we honor those nature beings we love so much, whether it's trees that have been cut down or trees that were lost in environmental disasters or animals that were lost or even our own pets. So I'm going to start with that, because once you learn that practice, it actually gives you a way to channel your feelings, because you do a true, beautiful, sacred memorial for that being who graced this planet with so much beauty.
Wow, that's gorgeous. Thank you so much. I'm looking at the clock here. We're just about out of time, and this has just been a wonderful hour as usual. It's always such a great time talking to you. I want to thank our viewers for being with us today and for sending in your questions. Once again, Shamanic Journeying with the Spirits of Nature starts Tuesday, March 5th. And again, you can visit spiritsofnaturecourse.com to learn more and to register. So Sandra, before we go, do you have any final words for our viewers?
I just want to thank everybody, because I know everybody who's listening is doing the work that you're being led to. And there are so many different ways to impact the planet right now and to impact our lives and to help raise consciousness of humans so that we bring more harmony into life. And so I want to thank you all for what you're doing. And those of you who want to join me in a global community in some amazing ceremonies to places around the world and to amazing creatures and those right in our backyard, I welcome you into this course. I know it's going to be absolutely amazing. I'm really excited about it.
All right, I'm looking forward to it as well. Thank you again, Sandra. It's always a pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks, Lisa.
You bet. And once again, thank you to everyone who joined us today. On behalf of all of us at the Shift Network, I wish you well and look forward to having you on this course or perhaps another one in the future. Have a great night, everyone.